So we're going to look at one big example and then a couple of smaller examples. Okay, this is actually a piece of authentic material, and it was produced by Georgetown University, and it's part of their recruitment for teaching fellows to work in various parts of the world. And if you look at the bottom there, there's a list of teacher qualifications, and this is the qualifications that Georgetown University specified that they were looking for in teachers, teaching fellows who they could place in many parts of the world, including many underdeveloped countries in the world. So at the top there is the announcement. The Center for Language Education and Development at Georgetown University is recruiting teachers to work on an intensive English program in Tashkent, Uzbekistan. This is a specific location. Requirements include a master's in TEFL and experience teaching in intensive programs. So that's the actual location, and this is the position description. Teachers will have the following teaching responsibilities: plan and teach 20 hours a week, and as assigned by the academic coordinator, develop materials as needed for classes, and then teachers will participate in auxiliary activities in the program up to 5 hours per week as assigned in the following areas: monitor language and reading skills center, accompany students on field trips, and tutor students with special needs. And so the teachers are required to attend to the following administrative matters: keep students' attendance records as instructed, prepare evaluations of students as instructed, and finally attend weekly teachers meetings. So those are all the particular duties. And now here's a list of qualities, teacher qualifications that Georgetown are looking for. So that's a piece of authentic material, and this has been developed into a discussion. Okay, so we're going to do this in stages. So first we're going to start with the individual stage. So individually decide which are the two most important teacher qualifications from the list on the previous page. And you can write notes similar to the following. So here's a little frame for actually having students prepare some of their opinions. I think A is an important qualification because, or there are two reasons why I think A is an important qualification. First, second. So that allows a certain amount of individual planning time. So when they get to the pair work, group work stage, they already have something to contribute. Okay, so 2 is the particular group stage where students are going to share their ideas either in pairs or in a small group. The particular task here is to choose together the 3 best qualifications for the teachers they're looking for to go to Tashkent in Uzbekistan. Notice here is some language input to help the students in expressing themselves in the discussion. So once they've gone through that, then they would go to the plenary stage, and here one of the particular groups would serve as the moderators, and so the plenary task is to choose the top 3 qualifications that they are looking for in teachers who apply for these positions. And this will eventually turn into a vote. Notice when we get to the plenary stage, we've already got the group stages, so we've already got, each group has got 3, their top 3 qualifications. So we've already got a basis to move further to this larger discussion. I mentioned in the earlier discussion about assigning particular roles to students in the discussion. This is called a discussion wheel, and this can be changed within the discussion, or it can be just laid on the desk to indicate fixed roles for that particular one-off group discussion. So we've got a timekeeper, and we've got a discussion leader or facilitator, and then we've got note takers, one for content and one for language. So that's a very useful little tool to use to designate these particular roles that you want, these particular tasks that you want your students to take on. And it allows, for example, as I mentioned earlier, that you can assign a shy student the role of content note taker, and that's guaranteed by the time it gets to the plenary session that they're going to have a lot to contribute. As I mentioned, all discussions need some kind of closure. Um, Many years ago, when this particular ad was put out, I spoke to the actual director of the Center for Language Development at Georgetown and said, okay, tell me what you think would be the top three qualifications. Okay, and this is what they came up with. So the ones with the three stars, are the most important ones. Um, 2 stars are important, but not as important as 3. Um, and the key is, as it says in the bottom, that with the 2 stars, the 2 crosses, the program can deal with these items, but it can't really deal with the absence of the ones with the 3 crosses. So we got closure. Okay? And of course, if this is a group of students who are going to be language teachers, this is, of course, a really good content area for them to discuss. So let me go on to a couple of more examples. And oops, let me go the other way, of course. And again, the same principle applies with these. We use this structured approach where we go from individual, pair, / group work, and then to plenary. So some of these you may be very familiar with. This particular one is, if I remember rightly, it's a kind of a desert island problem, and these are the particular items listed at the bottom there that are potentially things you could take on the desert island. And so you have to individually say choose 2, and then in groups agree on 3, and then on a plenary decide on the 3 most important ones. Another one is form of discussion is arrangements. And so this is a zoo, and we have to arrange animals in their various cages. At the bottom here, you've got various information about certain animals that can get on with each other, and certain animals that like to be a long way from each other. So what you have to do individually is design an arrangement for the zoo for the animals, then in pairs come to an agreement, and then it goes to plenary. Another one, which is of course always a great source of discussion, is matchmaking. Um, this looks pretty dated because it's way before online dating, and this was um, something you filled out and sent in. I've used them, and so what I give students is a series of cards like this with various details about the particular individuals. I usually put a photo on the back of the card, and so we can give out 5, 6, maybe cards max of males, and 5, 6 cards of females, and then ask students to match them first as individuals, then as groups, and then in a plenary situation. So that's a great example of how you can generate discussion from issues which are not, certainly not hot topics like the one we talked about in the previous discussion. They're just interesting, and everyone's got an idea about matchmaking, of course. Okay, so there's some examples for you to think about in the way that we can stage discussion, and that's an important way of looking at discussions if you want a student-centered approach.